everybody, and welcome to another one of these short videos entitled Managing in a Pandemic. You might have seen other ones of these that I've been doing. The idea was to present small, short, accessible bits of theory, I guess, with the hope that managers who are dealing with this difficult time could use it in thinking about how to manage their staff. Now, one of the other videos I did was called Above and Below the Waterline, How to Decide When to Act. And in that video, I linked it to this video, which is about non-violent communication. It's about having difficult conversations, deciding that actually you do want to speak to staff, and how you're going about doing that. I have to say, this is going to be just a touch. This is going to be a very, very shallow, hummingbird dip into non-violent communication. It deserves a closer look. This was an approach developed by Marshall Rosenberg, who sadly passed away a couple of years ago. Very, very useful stuff. I'm going to give you just a little taster of it, but I hope it's useful in you get some pointers out of it, but also that maybe it encourages you to look a bit closer into non-violent communication. I just remember I had a story about a manager of mine, somebody I liked a great deal, who really struggled with giving me bad news, but with talking to me about difficult things, because we got on really, really well. And I had an accident many years ago, and I was off work for several weeks. It was quite a nasty accident, very, very painful. I couldn't come back to work. But when it came to the next annual review, she was stuck with the figures about how much I'd had off sick. And she didn't really know how to deal with it. So she kept saying to me, it was excessive. She said, your sickness absence is excessive. And I was saying, well, yeah, I know it was a lot, but I had a really nasty accident. I was carried off in an ambulance, and I was in hospital and all that kind of stuff. But she struggled, and I suppose it stayed with me really, because I knew she was doing her best, but she didn't know how to have that conversation with me about what had happened, what she wanted, and what she hoped for the future. So I think that MVC helps us to do that, and I'm going to just talk you through it and do the best I can in hopefully 15 minutes. So hold on, it'll probably be a bit of a romp. So non-violent communication has this sort of structure. It's not a process, but the structure is useful, I think. And it starts with the idea of observations and making a distinction between an observation and evaluation. Unfortunately, with my poor manager was, she made an evaluation. My sickness absence was excessive, and I kept listening to excessive. She kept saying it's excessive. What would have been really useful would have been to say to me, over the last 12 months, you've had, I don't know how many days he was, off sick, as an observation. The next thing in the process is requirements. What's important? Have I, the manager, given that news? What's important? What do I need from the member of staff, which hasn't been met by the observation? This is a small team. There's only 5 of us, and you were off on leave for this amount of time. I need this team to be fully resourced so we can do the work that we can do. It seems like a reasonable requirement. Feelings is part of the MVC model. I'm not sure how feelings sort of sit in work, actually. I think we tend to use a rather watered down feelings language at work. We might say, I'm disappointed, I'm concerned, or what have you. Non-violent communication is really, really useful in your family. Actually, it's really, really useful. And you might feel that in a relationship, in your intimate relationship, or with your children, or with whoever else is in your family, having a chance to describe your feelings, it can be very, very useful. There's requests. Marshall Rosenberg says is that we can tell people what to do and they may well do it. However, we risk losing their goodwill. So he kind of emphasises the request. I think sometimes when we're at work and we're the manager, we're going to make a a direction. We're going to make we're going to direct people to do things. We are. Sometimes that's the responsibility of their own. But maybe we can look at that a little bit further on. Let's go in and look at some of these broken down, if that's okay. So observation, starting at the top, noticing without judging. So that's very, very useful. So if we feel ourselves in experiencing a member of staff, the chances are we're going to start developing evaluation. Well, that's not very good, or that's inadequate, or that's ineffective, or that's inappropriate. And that's completely understandable. What I'm going to ask you to do at that point is to say, right, what is it I'm seeing? What is it that I'm hearing from that person or around that person that's leading to that evaluation? But let's bring ourselves back to the observation, because that's super useful. Even sharing that observation with people is tends to be better received than an evaluation. And sometimes what it does, it holds up a mirror to somebody. I mean, I've got some daft examples here, some pre-pandemic, very simple examples. You know, last week on Tuesday you came in at 9:20, and on Thursday you came in at 9:35. You know, as a piece of information to member staff. You know, rather than you're tardy or your short hours or, you know, or you're not giving what you should or whatever evaluation. This is that we're holding up a mirror, you know, and you can imagine people going, whoa, really? Or, oh, do you know what? And actually I stayed until 7 on Thursday or whatever, you know. That kind of gets us into a conversation. A conversation between colleagues, between managers. 4 of your staff are using the car park without my agreement. You know, just a bit of information. I've been out at the car park and I can see 4 of your staff using the car park, which is belongs to my team, and we've had no conversation about that. As opposed to something like, oh, your staff are taking what's not theirs, or your staff are taking the piss, or something like that. You know, it's an observation. And here we are. There's a sort of discussion between departments. In April and May, you promised the paperwork on time, i.e. by last week. On each occasion, it arrived 5 days after the agreed time. So it's data. We're holding up a mirror and saying, this is what I observed, rather than your service sucks, your team's below par. That's the difference. We're making a distinction at the start of this process between observations and evaluations as a place to start. And this in itself can be just really, really useful. We hold up the mirror to people and sometimes they go, oh crikey, do you know what? I hadn't realised, or there's an explanation, or thank you for telling me, or I mean, sometimes people will go, well, no, I wasn't. In May it came on time or whatever, and you go, okay, but there were these other times. So we have a conversation about that. So, and we hope that's useful for us as a place to start. Okay, next, requirements. Why are we having the requirements? We'll go back to our team member. Is that the service our team provides starts at 9 o'clock. We have service users ringing up. We have people knocking on the front door wanting to come at 9 o'clock. And I need the team to be ready at 9 o'clock in order to meet our customers. The car park issue. My team makes several home visits each day. They come and go. I need to make sure that they can do this as effectively as possible. So when they do their home visits, they come back and it's a car parking space so they can be straight back to their desks. That's my requirements. That's my needs. That's why I'm talking to you about your stuff being in my parking bay. And here's the thing about the paperwork. This paperwork is crucial to this service and needs to be here on time. And I'd like to feel confident that it will arrive. These are my needs. I need that paperwork to be here at the time that it's required to work. And I like to feel confident that you're sending me the paper at the right time. So here we are, observations and requirements. So how's that so far? That's just the start of the process. Here we go back to my manager. The observation could have been, you've had 15% equals so many days of sick because of your accident. And my requirements is really to try to deliver the best service I can with a limited resource. So that's why we need to talk about it in terms of the future. So there we are, observations and requirements. There's something about feelings is difficult here, isn't it? Now, if I walk into my teenage son's bedroom. I don't have any teenage children anymore, but if I walk into the bedroom and I'd say, you know, I come downstairs and I say, I've been up to your room, I saw 5 dirty plates, 2, 3 or 4 what looks like dirty underwear. It's quite a strong smell, stale smell in your room. That's my observations, rather than you're a slob. Yeah, we're already off to a better start. And then I say, you know, what's important to me is that everybody works hard in this house, and what I'd like is that to think that everybody's trying best to create the best environment for us to live. Or I might say, you know, maybe in a few years' time you'll be living independently, and I'd like to feel that you are well prepared to look after yourself in a healthy way. So those are observations, requests in a domestic setting. And I might say, you know, when I see this in your room, when I go into your room and see this, I feel worried or I feel angry because I've spoken to you about this before. So feelings at work tend to be, they're there, but we tend to manage them. We have cultural differences about how we manage them. So there we are. It's a note about feelings, but they play part of the model. Here we go. I've said that about Marshall Rosenberg. So the request might be, let's say, in the first one would be, could you please be here in the office, ready to receive the first customer at 9 o'clock? That's a request. Or if there's anything that stops you doing that, could you please let me know before 9 o'clock? And I guess that's a kind of request based on that. Or if your staff is short a car park and it's an emergency, could you come and speak to me about it and maybe we can organise it? So I suppose we're used to the idea of assertiveness. And unfortunately, the term assertiveness has got hijacked, really. You know, we say things like, oh, have you met the new person on reception? He's assertive. And actually what we actually mean is that he's stroppy or difficult or rude, actually. I think this takes assertiveness a bit further and gives us a bit of structure. Nothing wrong with assertiveness, you know. But this gives us a bit of structure to think about how we might share with people what we've observed, what we might explain to them what we need, what our requirements are, that we might deal with any feelings that might be present, and then we might construct a request for them. Now, having said that, I know if you're the line manager and and you're managing a group of people who are, roofing, putting a new roof on a building, would you please put on a safety high-vis vest and a safety helmet? Nah, that's not a request, that's a direction. People have to. There will always be things that we might direct people to do. But if we can make a request, that sounds really useful. Okay, so that's Phil Jones, and here I am, just finishing off another video on nonviolent communication. I hope that's really useful to you. Please check out some of the other videos, and if you have any questions or any comments, please get in touch. Thanks very much and have a good rest of the day. Thank you.